Well, welcome back to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We have an extraordinary guest, Goldsmith turned speaker turned social media recipe card maker. Just call me Twist. She says, welcome to the show, Twist.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited. We just have so much to cover. In fact, we're going to do 2 episodes.
We are doing 2 episodes because we have
2.
so much juiciness that is so relatable because that's what people need.
So Twist and I met at Archangel.
We did.
In Toronto, a business conference meets Cirque du Soleil. That's how Giovanni likes to call it. And she had the most brilliant product. It is called Social Media Recipe Cards. It takes the thinking and the guesswork out of what to do for your content creation. Stick around for the next episode where we're going to dive into that. Then I discovered that Twist has an incredible story, amazing background, and she's a baller professional speaker. Paid keynote speaker for trades, associations. Best spot to sticker is the speech before lunch.
You got it.
What an amazing, specific niche. Trades, associations, conferences, speaker before lunch.
You betcha.
How did you get there? Maybe take us back to the beginning before you were the speaker and tell us, what's your journey? Tell me about it.
Okay, so here's what's going to be super helpful, Majeed. By the way, I super love that I'm Twist and you're Majeed and neither of us need a last name. It's amazing.
What's the last name?
All right. So here's what will be super helpful. I have ADD, and if you don't ask one question at a time, I'm going to be like off in la la land, getting really excited about something that may not be relatable, and I want to make sure that I keep it relatable. So you can support me by asking me one question at a time.
Amazing. Let me ask you a totally different question that I want to ask you. You're hilarious.
Thank you.
In person, you're funny. In conversation, you're funny. When you started speaking, were you funny, or did you get like really serious and had to figure out how to be funny again?
Oh my God. The first time my mother told me to stop taking myself so seriously, I got so mad at her and I didn't even want to look at her for a week. I was
when
probably
you were
like
speaking?
15. No, I was like 15.
Okay.
I was so serious because I believed that life had to be black or white and there was nothing in between. Like that was it. Somebody had to have the answer and we all had to have the same opinion. And people who didn't have the same opinion or one or the other side of the fence, they had issues. That's what I used to believe.
And when you're speaking, are you funny?
Oh my God, I'm hilarious. If people don't laugh, I tell them to laugh at me and I come up with a reason. I'll be like, because I wear really interesting outfits, because I have pink hair, because I'm Canadian, because I'm whatever. And sometimes people need permission to laugh. And when I realized that laughter is something that brings people together and that you can really honor a space with clean jokes, and some of those jokes, like, and when I say jokes, I don't mean, why did the chicken cross the road? I mean, jokes on me. So I tell funny stories of what happened to me. People go, oh, no way! And then they want to participate differently as a listener. So yes, I am funny on stage.
Amazing. Amazing. That is such a gift to the audience. I was told by one of my mentors, if you want to make money, you got to be funny. And what I've found is that you can be funny in a social environment where you're sort of witty and responding to, that's what she said, that kind of stuff. But when you try to bring that on stage and it's more of a monologue.
Yep.
You kind of have to set up and knock down your own punchlines, or in your case, you're telling stories and you're so active and you're so self-deprecating that the audience is like, I just love this lady.
So I tell you what, can I give an example right now of 2 stories that I tell?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So for those of you who are listening and not watching, right behind me, there is a giant whiteboard. Okay. What's really important about my arm motion right now and my voice is that it's slow and my arm moves slowly in a circular motion to demonstrate how big it is. Because if I'm on stage and you can't see my whiteboard, I'm not going to turn my back to you and go, it's this big, and hold my arms up like a box. It doesn't make sense. But if I paint the picture about how big it is, then you can imagine for yourself.
Right.
And what people expect to hear is, this is my whiteboard. I do my best work on it. But what I say to people is, this is my whiteboard. I'd like you to meet it. We make love at least once a day. Right? Because I want people to get a little bit of like, what can I say that's appropriate?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And like, I speak at trades conferences. I don't speak at church events. I wouldn't say that at a church event.
Right.
Right? Because I know my audience.
Trades conferences.
Wait, there was another story that's super
Second
relevant.
story. Yeah.
I remembered that. Are we going to do it now or later?
Tell me second story now.
Okay.
I have ADD too. I might forget to get back to it.
Perfect. Well, I might have to use the whiteboard to keep us on track then, because that's how I normally do it. Okay. What I'm going to say, though, is there is one swear word coming up. It's completely relevant. And I tell my audience this before I start because it's what makes the story funny.
How do you say that exactly? Do you say,
okay,
ladies and gentlemen, I just need to tell you there is a swear word coming.
So here's what I say. I say, just so you know, and I put my hands up and I open my palms because psychologically that shows people I'm not hiding anything.
Okay.
And I say, just so you know, I'm going to swear. And then I pause for that long and I look at all of them so they know I'm serious. Mm-hmm. And also what that does is has them lean forward.
Oh boy. Wow. Okay. So guys, just so you know, I'm going to swear.
Just so you know, I'm going to swear.
Okay. And then you say?
Now on the screen, okay, now I don't need a PowerPoint to do this. Okay. So I know all my materials so well that I don't have to have a reference screen because I know when to push the button for my slides to turn. Mm-hmm. Okay. At this particular point, on the screen, there's a hello, my name is big red sticker. Okay. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing filled in. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now for this story, when I say the swear word is when I push the button and the word shows up.
Perfect.
Okay. So set up. So I'm going to do it just as I would.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I just want you to know I'm going to swear. When I was learning sign language, it was when I got a contract in the deaf community. And I was told that I would have an interpreter. And I arrived and all I could do was the alphabet and really rusty, let me tell you. I could only do it in order. I couldn't sign. And I got there and I didn't have an interpreter for a month, a week, a day, an hour, a minute. I did not get an interpreter. For context, my friends, we had 112 staff and 95 of them were deaf. And we had 45 clients and every single one of them was deaf, deafened, or hard of hearing. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. And so, meeting in the boardroom with the executives. So you can imagine this very cramped room, okay, very cramped room with the executive director, the program director, the team leader, the supervisors, 2 interpreters. It's a big room, little room full of big people. And I stood up at the front and I had practiced and practiced and practiced in the mirror. I was like, hi, my name, A-L-Y-S-S-A. My name. Nice. So when you put your thumb to the side of your fist and hold it up, that's an A. And before I went by my nickname, which is Twist, I went by my first name, which is Alyssa. And I had long curly hair at the time. So you would take an A from your forehead and make little curly motions down to about your waist. So that was my sign name. So a sign name is your name in context with a sign. So in the same way that I wouldn't go up to somebody and say, hey, my name's A-L-Y-S-S-A, or hey, my name's T-W-I-S-T, I go up and say, hey, I'm Twist. Okay. Right. So that's the context. And so I get up at this meeting, very full packed room, far too hot, no windows open, ridiculous. Hi, my name, A-L-Y-S-S-A, sign name. And I put my fist up and I twiddled my thumb inside.
Okay.
And somebody sitting just to my left goes, oh, that means asshole. And I had introduced myself as, hello, my name is asshole.
And then you click the button.
And then I click the button and it says asshole on the tag.
Right.
People laugh every time because they go, it's not about the swear word at that point. I've already set them up that I'm going to swear. They've already, if they haven't left, given me permission to do that on stage. Mm. By the way, I actually tell my event planners that I'm going to do that.
Right.
It's in my contract.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Right? Like, or it's in the entry letter that I give, my covering letter for my contract. So just so you know, I'm going to say this word. It's in context. Please don't tell the delegates that I'm going to do it because it wrecks the story. But I flat out tell them I'm going to swear so they know full well before I get there what's going to happen.
And then do you have everybody in the audience stick your thumb up and twiddle it around and now you know how to say asshole?
No, I definitely don't do that. Okay. But yeah, so those are some of the ways that I make people laugh from stage.
Good fun. Okay, so the humor comes from you're taking them in a certain direction. In this case, you're building some suspense because you give them there's going to be a swear. Mm-hmm. And then the punchline is orchestrated with the visual and the delivery of the last word.
And a big pause after to let people soak it in. And then if I'm in a room where somebody is interpreting for sign language or with another language, then that pause also gives the delay for the other people who speak a different language who are listening to the interpretation or watching the interpretation, and they get their turn to laugh too.
Can you say that last part again?
For sure. So I'll say it a different way. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say the audience is mostly English speakers. I spoke at a conference recently where they had a group of students who were from China. They spoke Mandarin. And they brought an interpreter. So the people who spoke English as their first language got the joke right away. And then there was a delay for our Mandarin speaking audience members.
Oh, because there's an interpretation happening.
Because there's an interpretation happening.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
That's great. Cool. Okay. So you went to school as a goldsmith.
I did go to school to be a goldsmith.
Are there lots of women goldsmiths?
So generally it's a male dominated industry that is changing slowly.
Yeah. Got it. And then how did you become a trade show speaker?
So goldsmithing is considered a trade, and I come from a very long and proud line of tradespeople. So with the exception of like my third cousin who's a lawyer and my seventh cousin who's in politics, we're all tradespeople, all artists, all musicians, all of us.
Got it.
And so I know that life really well. I don't speak corporate. Like, I just don't speak corporate. And so as I was developing my career before I became a speaker, I was very much business, social services, the arts. Those were the things that I loved. So my arts were goldsmithing, business was my, selling my product, and social services was, I did a little palliative care. I looked after people with special needs, those sorts of things.
Okay.
And sometimes all of those things went together and sometimes it didn't. So just like a lot of people with ADD, I have a lot of different interests. And so I thought, I'll just do it all.
Yeah.
And then after like 20 years, I was like, maybe I should not try and do it all anymore. Maybe I should not. Maybe I should not speak about anything once I became a speaker. Maybe I should narrow that down. And so that's been a refined skill, soft skill in my life, is being able to distill things down.
So you became a tradie, if I can use that term.
I don't know. I've never heard it. So go for it.
In Australia, everything's a something with the E. The electricians are Sparkies, and the air conditioner HVAC guys are called coolies, I think. Coolies?
Oh, that's fun. I will have to
Friggy Coolie.
Friggy,
so
okay.
They all have a nickname.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Tradies. Okay, so tell me about like becoming into professional speaker realm where you're actually getting paid to speak. How did you know what to charge?
I didn't. Somebody told me what to charge. It was somebody who was a mentor who had mentored a lot of people. And I appreciated so much what they were willing to teach me. Two things about that. They probably weren't the right mentor for me, but I didn't know how to say that, look for somebody else. So I just jumped at the opportunity to have a mentor. And I took pretty much every piece of advice they gave me, and not all of that served, but I didn't know how to say no because they were the professional.
For the person listening now saying, I am looking for a mentor, and there's the free mentor that you meet up for coffee once a month and they give you some advice and you come back and you say, I followed your advice. And then there's the paid mentor, AKA the coach. What advice do you have for someone wanting to break into the speaking business in terms of finding a mentor?
So if I was anybody, I would go to NSA. So there is a Canadian version that you can go to as well called CAPS. This year, the event is, 2019, the event is in London, Ontario.
Let me pause. NSA, National Speakers
Association.
CAPS, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. Great.
You got it. And so with NSA, they have different professional experts groups, PEGs. Okay. There's one called the Cigar Peg. It has nothing to do with speaking. And it's basically a whole bunch of people hanging out, having a really great conversation.
Yeah.
And, having a few drinks. And then you go outside to smoke your cigars because you can't do that in the hotel.
Amazing.
And somebody said to me, now I'm not a night hawk, which is important for the story because the peg opens at cigar peg opens, I don't know, at 11 o'clock at night or something. I'm in bed by then normally. And somebody was like, if you want to meet anybody, that's where you need to go. And I was
the
like,
cigar peg,
the
night
cigar
hawk
peg.
thing.
And what I found out when I got there is they actually raise all kinds of money for awesome charities. They, at the end of the week that you're at NSA, they have a big party night and they auction off services of each other so that people can actually support each other. Like, it's so cool. And I didn't know all that till I got there. I was just like super afraid. I was in my hotel room. I probably changed my outfit like 10 times that day before I even left. And anybody who knows me, I'm like, okay, let's get on. Like, if you have balls enough to have pink hair and stand on a trade stage, you know, but I was scared, Majeed. I was just starting out. I'm like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and I'll tell you, to get there, I didn't have any money. Okay. I had just taken in a teenager who was going to be homeless. I was working like a job that was an hour away, or a contract that was an hour away from my house. Like, I painted farm signs to get there. One of my mentors from business, from when I first started my business a lot of years before that, he was like, hey, I have these points at this hotel that are expiring. He lives in India. And he said, I'll just give them to you. Why don't you go? You know, like, happy birthday. Here you go.
Nice.
Like, that's how I got there.
Yeah.
And so I'm at this peg and people are like, hey, who are you? Welcome, la, la, la. And everybody was so welcoming. So on top of everybody who was so welcoming at NSA, they were like, hey, you're new? Tell us what you talk about. Let us help you. And that's where I met David Avrin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that night, or one of those nights, I met a man called David Avrin. And he is like just an incredible person. And he's an amazing speaker in the marketing and customer service space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think at this point, the man's been to like 5 continents and 25 countries. I know his book just launched in India. Like, he's amazing. And he asked me, he's like, so what's your topic? And my topic at first was not anything about marketing or HR. Okay. My topic was like how to interact with people with disabilities, because that's the space that I knew really, really well, because there's not enough reach for goldsmithing speakers. And he looked at me and he's like, you should never talk about that again.
Really?
I'm like, I have known you for 2.5 minutes, but he didn't say it in a critical way. He said it in a, let me tell you how it is way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very, very different. Right.
Yeah.
And I could tell when we first started talking, and he did tell this to me later. He's like, honestly, Alyssa, I thought you were just another, like, somebody trying to make $1 million real quick. And then I got to know you and you weren't like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we didn't have like regular meetings or anything like that, but he really did mentor me. Like, once in a while we get on a call together. He helped me when I was like scared and didn't know what to do. He would tell me like it was, you know, and then he would say, and you have to make this work for you. And that's when you're looking for a mentor, you need to have somebody who doesn't say, this is how you do it. You know, there are certain things that we have to do a certain way in the industry.
Yeah. Now, did you formally ask him, hey, would you be my mentor? And you had an arrangement, or it was just sort of like a relationship that you knew you could ask him questions and you can.
I'm saying no right now, but I may have. I mean, this was a long time ago. So I may have said to him, like, would you mentor me a bit?
Right.
Oh, you know what? I do remember. I did. I said to him, David, would you mentor me? And he said, a lot of people ask me this. He said, I don't have the time to dedicate to that. Yeah. And if I'm going to commit to something, I'm going to do it. But you can call me if you need something. Okay. And I'll give you like 15 minutes at a time.
That's nice.
So like we probably had, I don't know, half a dozen conversations or something. Yeah. And then I went to his, a professional event that he ran a few years later, you know, and he really, really helped me because he was always, you know, you have to make this work for you. There's certain things that you have to do. Like you can't run a workshop if you're hired for a keynote. That doesn't work, right? Unless the keynote is supposed to be a workshop.
Right.
So he told me like it was, but he gave me the space to like be however I was. And that is, if people are looking for a mentor or a coach, like that is the number one thing. They have to make you better at who you are.
Beautiful. Let me unpack that.
Okay.
So to find a mentor, go where the best are already meeting.
Yep.
That's the National Speakers Association cigar peg in this case.
That was my experience.
And feel out the style of advice that you're getting. And do you feel like it's allows you to be you instead of feeling like you're following someone else's path that doesn't really fit you.
Mm-hmm.
And be assertive enough to say, I want you to mentor me. Will you mentor me?
Mm-hmm.
And be respectful of the mentor's time,
Mm-hmm.
as you've done. Great.
Yep, absolutely. And know that, like, in the same way that you are not the speaker for every conference, and if you think you are, you're not. Okay. I promise you're not. I don't speak corporate. I already shared that. I do not speak corporate. I am not a corporate speaker.
Yeah.
So know where you fit. Know that your mentor has to fit you too. It's a two-way relationship. Yes, you know the business of speaking. You make people great on stage, and you're not the coach for everybody. I'm not the speaker for everybody.
Totally.
We can't be, but we can be great for the people who choose us and whom we choose.
Exactly. Okay, so you have chosen trades association meetings that
conferences,
have speakers, conferences. And how long have you been doing this? How many years?
Are you asking? So altogether, I've been working on my craft for about 7-8 years.
You're talking about the craft of speaking?
The craft of speaking.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like that you put it that way.
I got paid the first time. I was paid $100.
Mm-hmm.
A city hired me to do their like summer camp thing.
Yep.
And it was how to interact with people with disabilities, right? Like that was before I went to NSA.
Yeah.
And they paid me $100.
What's the title of your keynote now?
So I don't have one solid keynote. So this is really interesting for people to hear. I am getting booked as a keynote speaker. However, I also have been called like the breakout speaker.
Uh-huh.
So because what I do is come up with marketing on the spot for people.
Yeah.
Normally people can't do that. Like that's just like this crazy gift.
That's super cool.
But people love putting me on stage for it. Yeah. So if you look at my content and how it's structured, it's very much breakout. People are hiring me to do a keynote because it's a completely different way of thinking. Okay. So the title of it is Marketing is About Belonging, the Unsexy Truth That Will Grow Your Business. And oh my goodness, I have to tell you something. Super excited. By the way, I get this excited on stage. People don't believe me, but I do. And it's amazing. And it's the reason they hire me. Are you ready, Majeed?
Yes.
I have the craziest thing to tell you.
Tell me.
So I came up with this marketing on the spot for this beautiful, beautiful human. His name is John McLaughlin. Mm-hmm. And he is in the landscaping industry. Last week, I was the keynote speaker at Hort East, which is the landscaping conference in the Atlantic region of Canada.
Yeah.
And John picks me up at the airport and he comes up to me. He's like, hey, Alyssa. And I'm like, twist. He's like, yes, twist. And he's like, I saw you speak at Congress, which is the Ontario Landscape Conference. Okay. And I said, I'm so sorry. Did I meet you? I don't remember. And I usually remember people. And he said, no, the lineup to speak to you after you were on stage was so long I didn't wait. Yeah. But he said, I advocated to bring you here.
No.
And I have to tell you the funniest story. I said, oh my goodness, you have to tell me. Please go ahead. And he said, so after we booked you, he said, somebody looked at me and said, are you going to sleep well tonight? Because of the fee they paid me. He's like, are you going to sleep well tonight? Because if she doesn't do well, this is on you.
Oh my goodness.
And he said, I don't have any concerns at all. Okay.
So good.
It was so good. Because trades conferences, I mean, normally it's just industry professionals. I was Goldsmith. I'm not a landscaper, right?
Right.
So we get in the car and we start driving. And he says, I have to tell you a story because I can't wait. I can't hold it in anymore. I was going to tell it when I introduce you tomorrow. I said, oh, you're introducing me? He said, yes.
Good.
I said, tell me the story. He said, I can't hold it in. I have to tell you that your marketing that I started doing while I was right after Congress has now increased the honeybee population, which is like a byproduct in the Moncton area. I was like, hold on a second. What are you talking about? And he's like, here's what I did. An apiary is a set of beehives, okay, bee colony. And he said, I think it's quadrupled the size of our apiary since we started giving our customers, because I talk to people, you market to the customers you already have. That's called respect. It's called belonging. We create it, and then they talk about you because other people want to be part of what you're creating. And he sends this honey with a story to his clients. And he says, here's the story. Because you hire us, here's what we're creating. Here's what you're part of. Here's the bigger thing you're part of. Okay. Oh my goodness. Goose pimples all the way up to my ears.
Wow.
So then his customers started talking to their customers and their associates about this honey, because there are a big buzz, all puns intended, about bees and honeybees.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, because people have these little jars of honey on their desks, in their kitchens, in their offices, he is now being referred at 3 times as much as he was before. He had one client get him 3 jobs, and he did not tell me how much those jobs were worth, but he said they were big. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so that's happened. And the honeybee population, they went from 5 hives to over 20 hives.
Wow.
And they have, I can't remember, I have to find out how many bees there are now, but it's like tens of thousands of bees now.
Wow.
Because of this project. It's so
Amazing.
cool. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You must be so proud. And as I'm observing you, I'm going, here is a master storyteller.
Mm.
And I know that you have some insights to share with my audience.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a good story? What makes a story effective from a marketing perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what you know about stories. What do we need to know about stories?
Okay, number 1, stories are not just about making people laugh,
Mm-hmm.
which means entertainment is also not just about making people laugh. We go to the movies to watch all kinds of different things happen on a screen.
Yeah.
So entertainment looks like a whole bunch of different things on stage too. I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell stories about how, so this is trigger warning for people that might be sensitive to some things, okay? So how I found out that my cousin died on Facebook. Like, I went to her Facebook page to wish her happy birthday and found out she had died, okay? I can talk about how I lost my best friend at 21 and nobody knew she was sick. I can talk about really intimate things, about caring for people who are dying. So like that world, okay? And people find that absolutely fascinating, because what I consider looking after somebody that close to death an absolute privilege, like to be with someone in their most intimate moments. So the story there is, look, people are afraid of this, but here's how we can create belonging there. Okay, so that's a piece of it, because stories are meant to make people think. Okay, so then I can tell funny stories like, hello, my name is asshole. Okay, I can tell funny stories like, this is my whiteboard, I make love to it at least once a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can tell those kind of stories. I can tell heartwarming stories, like about how I flew across the country on a red eye on a jet with like 8 screaming babies and nobody wore deodorant, and a French guy who lost his cell phone and kept waking me up. And makes right, and it's heartwarming because then I drove 3 hours to surprise a 7-year-old. And when I said to her, Maddie, what do you want to do right now? She said, sweep under my desk on my Sylvester pillow. Right? Like those kind of things. So when you tell a story, what you want are for the details to paint a picture, not for the details to be distracting. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really great example.
Picture, not to be distracting. Thank you. Example.
I'm going to tell you about our family cottage. Okay, and when we're finished, I want you to tell me what you picture in as much detail as possible. Okay, Majeed?
Okay.
We have a family cabin. To get there, we have to drive many hours, and then on a dirt road, and then onto a back road, and then into a single lane. And then we park on the quote unquote lot. It's actually just a few trees that were taken out and some mulch that was put down. And then we get in our boat and we take off about 5 minutes around the peninsula to the other side of the lake. And we park and we drag everything up the hill to our beautiful log cabin where we spend lots of time in the summer. We pretty much live off grid for about half the year. Mm-hmm. The cabin, it's pretty rustic, okay? So you can picture a log cabin. When you walk in, there's a living room to the right, a bedroom behind it, and then to the left, there's an eating area where we play lots of games together, and a kitchen. Mm-hmm. And then straight through, as long as you don't trip on the fireplace, you'll get out the back door. And I love to sit on the back porch because that's where my chipmunk Daisy comes to sit with me every morning, and I feed her. Okay. So tell me the picture in as much detail in your head as possible.
I'm driving a Ford F-150 red. Mm-hmm. Tires are worn from the back roads. I'm going off the highway with the black paint and the yellow lines, and I'm on to a no-lined road. Then I'm on to a dirt and gravel road, and then it's getting narrow, and there's branches in the way, and my truck's hitting the leaves. And then I pull in to the spot, and I know I'm home because this is my spot. I see my 4 trees. I see my little boat tied up to the dock, shaking and moving a little bit. I get my stuff out of the truck, bring it on down into the boat. I've got the little motor where you got to hold the hand. You got to hold the handle and move it side to side because it's just like one of those little half cut out boats. This ain't no speedboat with a steering wheel. This is one of those like grab them in the back kind. And then I'm whipping around. I see the blue heron take flight. I hear the sound of the loon and the whipper-whapper of the beaver's tail. I pull up, cut the engine, tie up the rope. There's my old cabin. Lights are off because we're off grid. Haven't lit in the candles yet. And open up the door. Got that little friendly, familiar, musty smell. Got to air it out a little bit. I see lots of flannel, blankets, old couch that used to be in grandma's living room. I see a nice little pile of wood and some matches by the fireplace. I see the old style refrigerator with the little locking handle. I see a little gas stove and just the basics, pots, pans, plates, and it's good to be home.
Amazing.
I see wooden cabin. I see the green pine trees. Yeah.
Amazing. So here's what's really, really important is I told a story with as few details as possible that let you paint a picture to be on the journey with me. Now I'm going to tell the story a different way with more detail so you can see how distracting it would have been for you to try and put your story into my story.
Oh, I'm excited. Okay, go ahead.
Your pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, so we take this series highway called the 400 series highway. It has like 12 lanes and sometimes gets closed because there's so much traffic. In fact, last week when I was on the way to that landscaping conference I told you about, at 4 o'clock in the morning, it got closed because a truck was on fire and melted into the pavement. Okay, like that. But this kind of day, it wasn't like that. This kind of day, we drive down the 400 and we go north at Toronto for 2.5 hours and we just stay on the highway until it turns into Highway 11, also called Gasoline Alley. It's kind of a nasty spot. You know, some people think, although I would say that it's like coming up because they have some really great, you know, tackle places where I can get my fishing gear and they have some good antique places. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. You lost already?
Yeah, we haven't even got off the highway yet.
Right. Good. So anyway, I get all the way up to Huntsville, this place in Ontario in the Muskokas. You might have heard of it. If you haven't, that's okay. It's called the Muskokas. And we get off at Highway 60 and we go by Huntsville and we go like, if we have to stop, we stop at the Independent so that like we can get our groceries, but they're like 30% more though. So I don't always like to go, but I do like to support local, and good thing that they have a pita pit across the street because pita pit's my thing. And it's next to a Dairy Queen, but we're not going to talk about that. Hashtag too many carbs. Okay. So then we stop for beer because my partner needs her beer and that's a thing. And then we go all the way across Highway 60 and we go through this little place called Interlaken, where they used to have the best butter tarts, but the lady retired. And unfortunately now it's a dog grooming place. I don't get it. Butter tarts to dog grooming. I feel like it could be a story, but it's not. So then you turn left on the Limberlost Road. And if you're meeting somebody and someone's already at the cabin, then you have to text them because your phone won't work up the Limberlost Road. So you have to text them at the fire hall where we get our water to tell them, hey, you have to come get me in 15 minutes because it takes about 15 minutes to get up the road. Okay? So then we're going to like drive up the road and we're going to go by Camp Olympia. And you got to slow down because they always let their campers run on the road. Drives me bananas. So you have to slow down, especially around that curve with all the dirt.
Okay, you lost me.
Right? I'm not even there yet. I haven't even set up, like, I'm done.
Right.
But then when I get to the cabin, if I start talking about, you know, that it actually is, I mean, it's rustic, but we have solar panels. So we don't light by candlelight. Well, all of a sudden, if you're thinking of, right, then you're like, wait, solar, that's so cool. And then you're off in another direction thinking about that.
And you know what else I noticed is I saw the cabin in great detail, the one that I went to in the Muskokas a couple years ago.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm back in my, like the cabin that I know. Just as if I say, if we're sitting down at the kitchen table going through some papers, you and I, you're imagining us at your kitchen table.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's how you want it to be. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you want people to be more engaged with your story, we're going to use my example right now. So if I'm telling this story or the original way where you got to have your own little thing, and I said, and I went back out and sat on the porch and I fed my chipmunk Daisy.
Yeah.
Here's how you can bring it all together for people. Add me on Facebook or go check out my Facebook from the middle of August. Now, I'm not wearing any makeup. I'm in my pajamas and I'm feeding Daisy, but you'll get to see her.
August 2019. Go to Twist's Facebook.
Yes. You can go find me and Daisy hanging out.
Awesome. This has been just a masterclass.
I hope it's been good.
In humor and in story, you are a master. I have one more speaking business related thing to ask you, and then we're going to end this podcast and we're going to do a second episode on the social media recipe cards.
Woot woot.
The speaking business question is, Alyssa, is Twist, excuse me.
That's okay.
What is your best strategy for landing speaking engagements? Let's say you had a completely blank calendar on 2020 and you're like, I want to get X number of speaking engagements. This is what I'm going to do. What do you do exactly?
So I can tell you right now that I have never done cold outreach for a speaking gig. And it's because I nurture the relationships that I have. And I don't do it to get more gigs. I do it because it's the right thing to do and it's the right way to build business. Okay. So I got my speaking gig at Hort East, for example, because it was my most recent one. That's the one I'm speaking about most today because it was just last week. I met John saw me speak. He asked me to come, but one of the other delegates was there too from Hort East in Ontario. So he's sitting there. His name is Brent. And he said, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. So after I met with people all day long, which is why I'm the before lunch speaker, because I sit with people all day long and help them on their business with my topic that I speak about before lunch. He said, let me introduce you to the executive director of Landscape New Brunswick PEI. That's how I made that relationship. Okay. So I created belonging for Brent. Brent said, hey, let me introduce you to Jim. John said, hey, I was in that too, Jim. When I come to the committee meeting, we should have Alyssa. I'm going to advocate for her. Jim and I have values in common, but we don't have a lot of interests in common. But I found out that his wife loves to quilt. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
I love quilting. Most people would never guess this about me, but I love it. And I did the layout for a book for one of the biggest fiber artists and quilters in the world. Her name is Maggie Vanderwait. And so I called her and I said, hey, Maggie, can you sign a copy of this book for Teresa? I'd really love to send it out as a surprise.
Nice work.
You don't have to know. I didn't do that because I was trying to get a gig. I did that because I wanted to show somebody else what caring a little bit looks like.
You're very good at that.
I love surprising people. And so
you're very good at that.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's what I would suggest. If you don't have gigs and you've done a good job for somebody else, ask them for a referral if they haven't given you one. And at the same time say, hey, why haven't you? If it's because they didn't think about it, then you have work to do on your marketing. And if it's because, well, you said something and we weren't sure about that and whatever, then you have great opportunity to learn. And
why didn't you refer me yet is a great question.
Yeah.
Would you please refer me? Good question. Why haven't you referred me yet? Even better.
Yeah.
Very good.
And friends, you give up the right to be angry at whatever they say, and you have to give whatever they say to you, you have to receive it with gratitude, because it takes so much guts to listen to why you aren't good enough to be referred. I probably did 100 free gigs before I started charging serious money to speak, because I wanted to be really good. So I took tons of feedback, made it better, went out and said, this is what I charge, and was confident doing it.
Beautiful.
Happy 2020.
Nice. What is your speaking goal for 2020? Do you think in terms of how many speeches you want to do?
My big goal for 2020 is actually different than number of gigs. So my goal for 2020 is to book enough US business that I can apply for a visa, which is different. That's a different gig than here's so many Canadian gigs I want to do.
Okay.
So
US visa is the goal for 2020.
US visa is the goal for 2020. Yep.
Cool.
So I have to book US gigs. So it's a different marketing approach, different goals for me.
Tell me exactly what you need to achieve US visa status so that I can help you with that.
Okay. So I will tell you what I know from lawyers that I have interviewed and what my lawyer tells me.
Yeah.
So the caveat here is I am only repeating information that I understand, and it isn't exclusively true.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so it's really important that I own my space.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So as I understand it, the government, the US government requires you to be booked out for at least $100,000 in business.
Mm-hmm.
The caveat there is that they don't actually give you the number, but the lawyers sort of know what number works, and that you're booked out a minimum of 12 months out. So what that looks like is if I start booking them right now and I apply, say in July, that for the 12 months past July, I have bookings of 100,000 plus. That's one of them.
All right, we got a target.
You have to be on, and there's a number of other things. Like you have to be asked to have judged the work of others, been published, part of associations. There's like 8 criteria, and you have to meet, I think it's half of them. But I totally encourage, if you want to apply for US visa, interview lawyers and choose one that works for you.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all of this wisdom. And I'll be seeing you very soon in the next episode of the Expert Speaker Podcast, where we will talk about social media recipe cards and how they are changing the game for entrepreneurs and marketing and making it way more easy and fun. Can't wait for that. Thank you for being here, Twist.
Thank you so much.
In the next episode.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Speaker Podcast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating so that more people can discover the Expert Speaker Podcast and so more people can be empowered to share their message. Be sure to go to www.expertspeaker.com and take the masterclass to learn how to grow your business and make money speaking. It's totally free and will change your business. If you're ready to work with Expert Speaker, you can apply. Just go to expertspeaker.com/apply, and someone from our team will be in touch with you to help you grow your business with public speaking. That's expertspeaker.com/apply. We'll see you in the next episode.